All right, hello, welcome to this video. Thanks so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. So I just want to go into a little just flow and just kind of play with the guides. Took this picture in a bathroom. It's always fun when you're taking pictures in the bathroom and people around you are like, what is she taking a picture of that for? But it's really cool, right? Love the geometry. All right. So let us speak on geometry. Let us put a spin around this topic. For as you play with the spin on the letters and the words and the angles in which we share the letters and the words, we begin to spin up, if you will, a story. We begin to tell a gram. We begin to tell a story. I'm seeing like someone singing singing telegram. We begin to tell a story that holds weight. It holds value, and though some may not value this particular type of story or the way that it's told or the spin of the letters that we are producing, we assure you that all letters hold weight. And as we share with you this particular type of technology, we begin to introduce, if you will, and allow you to deduce or come to your own conclusions about what these words or spoken, I'm seeing spokes on a wheel, spoken geometries actually mean. For there is a complexity in this type of interaction. There is a complexity in this type of language interaction that some will not understand. And that is not because they cannot process the language that is being spun or the energy that is spun from fun. It is merely because they choose not to. And this is the way of it. For we are all in our own spin, if you will. We are all creating from our own distortion or our own coherence. And the more state of coherence we can be in, the more we understand coherently the codes that are available and accessible to us all in different modes, or in this case, commodes. You guys, my guides have a sense of humor. All guides have a sense of humor for listening. Sorry. I'm just cracking myself up right now. So as we listen and as we open to being playful, and as we stay open and open-minded and open-hearted, we begin to access more modes of play ability, of Play-Doh, more modes and abilities to play with the dough, if you will, that is part of our reality. The language transcripts, the way in which we transcribe language, the transcriptions that are written and imprinted upon our DNA that become accessible when we play in this way. And this is, again, a different verbiage, if you will. It is a different way of playing with letters and verbs, verbatim, from a higher technology, from a higher ability to access a different location, a translocation, if you will, or an ability to translate from different locations or multidimensional access points of our consciousness. And each of us are accessing different points of consciousness depending on where we are pointing, who we are pointing at, and where we are pointing from. I'm being called to go back later and break that down a little bit. For the vibration that we are holding as we point in a certain direction will then assist us in decoding what it is that we are pointing towards, to words, that we are accessing in words, that we are telling ourselves. This gives us the ability to understand more directly or indirectly, what our reality is playing back to us, that is showing to us, that is transcribing back to us as we describe our settings, as we describe the way in which we play with that which we are set back into, that we are set within to. This is a play on words. Set, like groups or more than one, or placed within a certain geometry or area or configuration. We play with this linguistically, and we love to play with keys, and we love to play with linguistic keys in our vocabulary to better understand and interpret this playful aspect that many of us have forgotten or have not necessarily tapped into yet. It is a way in which we can differentiate between geometries and codes held within our vocabulary or our linguistic mapping system. For as we tune in to this way of, I'm hearing literation, we begin to, I'm like literate, library, living library, reiterate, transcribe. Okay, you get where I'm going with this. And we begin to create an ability to access more codes. And when we use the word codes and when we use the word we, let us play with this in a multiple set right now, a different set of vocabulary. So I'm being called to just keep in flow and then maybe come back and break this video down just a little bit more. For our ability to create in this way comes with a more flavor, if you will. It allows us to combine different sets or words that allow us to tune into different sets of words and create different patterns. These patterns can then be reorganized and set up for a different play, if you will. I'm seeing like baseball or a game. For the game in which language has been subset into the bubble within the bubble has taken on a different view, and many become locked into this particular diagram and refuse to look past what is written on the page. And we invite all those who play in this way to continue to read between the lines, to allow yourself to see into a different design, a deeper schematic that can be accessed by a higher mind or a deeper sense of tuning into the mind, but that which is also behind or beyond the mind. For we would venture to say that the heart holds a different frequency when we play. So poems, song, dance, that which may seem out of tune at times carries a different tune when we give it a particular rhythm. So I'm seeing like, it might be like when you sing a song to kids, right? And you might just be saying, let's go for a walk outside. Let's go for a walk outside. And then you start rhyming. It just becomes more fun. And what the guides are kind of sharing with me right now is it gives us an ability to be playful and to reconstruct how we play with language. And this allows us to raise our frequency and vibration so that we can see what we're talking about, what I'm talking about. And when I say we, it's just variations. It's our guides, it's our angels, it's my higher self, it's my ancestors, it's beings that are connected to my quantum DNA. And the DNA, we don't fully and completely, truly understand exactly how it works. We know a lot about it. We know a lot about the brain. We know a lot about the body, but we're constantly and continually learning more because our abilities to understand more or increasing our vocabulary is what the guides constantly are saying has also increased. And as we learn more, we learn how to deduce more and understand more. So just as a songwriter learns to play with a certain score, we are also learning how to create in a different way and a different score. So we are keeping our center of language and vocabulary, yet from that center, we are increasing our spaciousness. Therefore, how we use our vocabulary can become more spacious and offer us a bigger set, a bigger direction, a bigger directive. It gives us the ability to direct our energy in a different display or geometry of patterns, a different marquee, if you will, that ties us into a bigger game and allows us to untie or untether ourselves from a base frequency of only understanding the basic subsets. So I'm being called to play with this just for a moment. And I'm trying to keep this quick because I actually have an appointment coming up soon. But so what I wanted to look up was subset. So I don't know what's going on with my lighting right now, but it's very magical. I'll take it. Okay, so a set, I was called to look up set in music, and I am not musically, mathematically, scientifically educated, but I like to play when I'm channeling this information and see where it guides me to go. And I'm on Wikipedia. A set in music theory, as in mathematics and general parlance, I'm seeing parlay. From that pirate movie. In musical context, the term is traditionally applied most often to collections of pitches or pitch classes. Okay. Earlier, I was seeing baseball. So that's an example of how my guides will show me different pictures or play with certain words that have nothing to do with what I think they have something to do with. And yet it ties them together in a new constructive and construction set. So it gives us, like, I'm seeing a construction set, like when you're playing with something and you're creating something, right? You're constructing it. And the theorists have extended its use to other types of musical entities so that one may speak of sets of durations or timbres, for example. So since I was talking about baseball, I'm going to go into pitch classes. In music, a pitch class is a set of all pitches that are a whole number of octaves apart. Ooh. The pitch class C stands for all possible Cs in whatever octave position. So I'm just going to play with this. Oh, here we go. Now it's exactly what I said, and I'm going to click on this just for a moment. The pitch class, okay, important to musical set theory, a pitch class is all pitches related to each other by octave. So what they're showing me, this is a multidimensional music theory, if you will. This is a multidimensional description of how it is that I'm speaking and how it is that we actually communicate. So what they're showing me is we can utilize our sense of the English language or whatever language you speak, and play with it in order to pull in different subsets, which are bubbles within bubbles, of more interpretations of the meaning behind the not just the word, but what's trying to be what's trying to be expressed, the expression of the sentence and the syntax. So they're asking me to kind of continue to go further. And I'll have to play with this. This is fun. So let me just go, oh boy. Okay, I'll come back to that. This might be a video I have to really kind of flow into. Am I still recording? I don't know if I'm recording. Let's double check. Yes, I am. Okay. And so we play with this musical theory in a very harmonious way. And we invite all who are working in this way to start to play with language and to begin to feel into the words that are being expressed, not only the energies behind the words, but taking our imagination and using the harmonious exchange, interchange, and adaptability of language in order to accent or further access deeper recesses of, the imagination. Okay, nothing like Cujo to bring you out of flow. Oh, well, apparently I'm not out of flow. That even rhymed. Thank you, Stephen King. Okay. And so we play with this terminology, for we are all in a process of an upgrade right now. And therefore, everything is upgrading, including the way in which we play with geometry and the way in which we interact with our frequencies and how the frequencies interact with us. And how we exchange information is becoming more robust. And therefore, we are being called to activate different forms of vocabulary, different forms of freelancing, if you will. And we can go on a freelance style in order to change the font and to create more upgrades within the font text, plan words. I'm seeing something have to do with the brain, like the cerebral cortex, the font text, like it's probably a combination of words. This requires for us to step outside of our box and to play, if you will, in the bigger sandbox and to co-create in a different way. Now, this does not mean that all of us will play with language in this way. Yet we are encouraging this type of play with words to be heard and felt so that it activates different points within the understanding, if you will, or the conceptual figuration within the networks and neurons of the brain and in the way in which we understand that particular terrain. The play with language is a way of creating new programs or upgrading the programs on how we communicate. For as you may or may not know, once you learn a different language, it increases, I'm hearing sustainability, but this is a play on words. It increases the ability to understand more. Okay, so I'm being called to stop and play with this for a moment. So it's like, if I'm doing this, which is a kind of a multi-dimensional way of interacting with my guides, right? And I share it in this sing-song way, it makes me feel good. It's fun, right? And so that's one thing that it does. The other thing that it does is it allows me to deliver the message from that higher vibration. So I'm then able to reach into the higher realms of the mind or the higher vibratory frequencies of more, maybe the Akash or whatever we want to label it as. And I get to pull out from that stream and then streamline it with these different words that could take on 5 different meanings. So whoever's listening might get something different from it. It might ping off of their awareness and cause them to remember something or to go, wow, that's a weird synchronicity. I was just watching a baseball game just now. And that baseball game might be the Tigers. Is there a baseball team called the Tigers? I think there is. Let's say the Dodgers. No, we'll stick with an animal, because an animal is a really great tool. And we're going to use the word tiger, for example, lions and tigers, oh my. And then that takes me into, that person might say, okay, well, now I'm thinking of what does tiger mean, right? So what does that represent for me? And that becomes synchronicity. And that synchronicity is part of my passion and what I teach, and how to learn, how to remember that there is not a linearity necessarily to language. And I'm hearing pathology. There isn't only one path. We've just been taught to write from left to right, and that's right. When in actuality, we could write all different orders and create different, I'm hearing different borders. And the different borders, like the lines in this this geometry set behind me, I actually have this designed kind of all over my house. These create borders that create edges that create angles. And those angles are what helps us interpret and understand our reality, if that makes sense. And I really encourage everybody, if you're new to this channel, sorry, I had to get a drink of water, to check out Dan Winters. I have not done all of my research and listened to everything on his website. However, the one thing that I have realized, because once again, I say this all the time, one of you guys reached out and said, hey, have you ever checked out Dan Winters? I looked him up and they said, I think this is what you're talking about. And during that time, he was sharing videos about language and the spin of letters and the shadows and all of that. So it's, I'll try to find the link and share it. I think it's goldenmean.info. Just look up Dan Winters. I'll share his link to his YouTube channel on the comments below if you're interested. And I'll try to find that one page where he has the pictures. Let's do it right now, shall we? Okay, so I'm going to share a screen and just show you briefly. I am on this Dan Winters PowerPoint. He has a lot of videos on this, but I just want to show you letters and what they look like on a toroidal field, and that when those letters represent a spin, and that creates casting a shadow, and that is casting a spell. So I'm going to share screen quickly as soon as I just clicked on something and I don't know what that was. This is why I don't do a lot of lives. How many years have I been doing this? Okay, so I'm going to pause and share screen. Okay, so I'm going to read this bottom. I'm not sure if I can make this any bigger. I'm already as big as I can get there. So these are the toroidal field in different angles, okay? And at the very bottom in teeny tiny letters, again, I'm on goldenmean.info/PowerPoint, but you can go on goldenmean.info. I'm pretty sure it's alphabet. So this is how we got A, B, C, the letters of the alphabet. We were learning to tilt the angles of approaching donut waves called domains. And my guides are constantly using the word domain. So it's a multi-dimensional presentation of not only language, but our reality. By learning how to steer the inertia of those waves in compression effectively, we were learning how to store the inertia, therefore creating matter out of light. Alphabet symbols were a way to find your angle quickly to allow you to become the gravity center of approaching tornadoes. Not literally tornadoes, but the inertia of these waves, right? Electromagnetic energy, wormholes, strings, compression, and this is called embedding. And he even talks about the word embed, right? The font or burning fountain is our ABCs. So each of these are creating a letter, right? Like a cookie cutter extruding. I don't have my glasses on. Light domain, donut bubble onto the membranes, memory. These are accurate computer projections of the self-organizing golden spiral, delineating the self-organizing 7-color symmetry map to make our font. And my guides always use the word font because it's double meaning, it's triple meaning. They are just tilted or phase locked into the self-organizing alphabet symmetry. So for whatever reason, my guides have opened me up to being a channel for that type of communication, or the type of communication, not that type, but we're all doing our own range of angles and spin. But I happen to hold within my own architecture that finds joy, or it's in my DNA, maybe it's in all of our DNA, that finds joy in the poetic format, or that particular way of embedding. And I play with this in a cohesive, from myself, structuring and restructuring of language and communication. And so that's just one way to play in a different level. And I'm hearing up level, but it's not a hierarchy. It's just a different level. It's like some people play in this level of the game. Some people play in that level of the game. I may not have access to that level of the game, but I have joy, and in joy, I play with this particular level of the language game, which is really fun for me. Okay, so I hope that kind of made sense. The reason we are sharing in this way are many reasons, and they are trifold, if you will, for we are unifying with different geometric configurations within the brain. And the brain stores information, or as quoted earlier, memory. But the memory is not necessarily embedded within the physical component that is the brain. It is merely an aspect or a mechanism, if you will, that is associated with our particular formatting in reality. And so we are seeking in this playful rendition of explanation, playing on words in these particular planes and domains of energy networks, we are hoping to share a higher accessibility and way in which to access higher abilities, higher functionality, or more functioning, higher functioning schematics. For when we open up these codes, if you will, that are locked inside of our nodes or different reference points, we are then able to access or reference back to and forward to, plan words, different areas that have been previously constricted. We then open the channels and the floodgates open, the flow opens, the electrical gates open, the impulses open, and that which was stored within becomes more accessible. I'm hearing the membrane becomes thin. It creates more distribution. And this higher distribution allows for a flow to begin to open the access points, the streams of consciousness, if you will. And when we consciously and consistently interweave and stream in this flow of conductibility, we begin to reorganize our stability. We begin to reorganize that which we are able to see. And I'm hearing configure 8s of reality. So there's just different shapes that I'm saying that we begin to restructure. And I'm hearing also structured water, but that might be another flow. So even as we share this flow, that example of the structured water comes into other flows, meaning we access and open the doors. We stream into these multidimensional points of awareness that we have access to now. And we may use certain words or verbiage in order to tone or tune into that particular network or conjunction with or juncture of wiring, if you will. We begin to tune into and stimulate that glandular network that assists us in interpreting the language of these higher geometries. For these are realities that are encased, in some cases, within a certain complex geometry scale. It is something that we must scale and weave our way into in order to fully, I'm hearing many different words, enunciate, access, activate, circumvent, plan words, co-create with these particular energies. And these particular energies do not necessarily have a physical body. For the bodies that we are sharing, from right now, do not look like the physical human body or the network that the body is exchanging with. It is a different energy. And this different energy has different compatibilities, capabilities, and programs that become embedded within the human when we access these different technologies. And even each of these words that we just isolated and spun into the framework of language spoken through the human syntax or English proverb, if you will, holds different meanings. For one word you may speak has a very different conductibility in our reality. And we are then able to apply that meaning, plan words with the word meaning, that spin, that golden thread that is woven into the language that you are speaking, we are able to isolate that and transmit a signal that is in alignment with the particular junction that word is lined up with. Yet we are in a deeper embedding, if you will. We may come from a different memory association or associated with that particular key, geometry, or word, if that makes sense. So I'm being called just to play with this because I'm like, that makes sense to me because I'm seeing all these different meanings attached to the word. But in a nutshell, these beings that are our multidimensional selves, it can be us from the future. It can be our ancestors, our great, 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 great grandmother who was able to speak in a light language that held mostly a template of vowels and, let's say, photographic memory, meaning not telepathic, but like clairvoyant type of visions. And in some cases, our ancestors, our tribe that are in higher dimensions, and I'm not even going to say from the past or from the future, just different dimensions, different dimensional existences, maybe outside of time, they communicate through just pictures, feelings, sound. It doesn't necessarily coagulate and enunciate in a human pattern, but we are here enunciating in the human through a pattern that is a particular triangulation of linguistic vocabulary that is attached to memory, geometric shapes, sounds, and signatures we then apply to our understanding, and they're throwing it all back in that again. So we understand because I'm going to go back to the baseball game and Tiger. And I've said this before, but it's something that I'm very passionate about sharing. So if I say tiger, and I know the word tiger in a different language, it'll have several different pronunciations. It might sound like something completely different that I then associate through poetic format to that other word. So if I rhyme something in Spanish, it may not rhyme in English, and vice versa. In addition to that, when I say the word tiger, I visualize stripes, orange and black. I visualize the jungle. I visualize a cat. So all feline, and all of the words that I associate and pictures, colors, and sounds I associate with tiger, including what they might hunt, the sounds they might make, not just the sounds of the word. Those are all in my mind, or part of my network, this geometric network. And what I'm hearing is geometric, it holds weight. And then I'm able to pull from or extract from those different points or nodes in my own knowingness, noggin, and beyond, that allows me to isolate those frequencies and apply them to a meaning. So we will continue to play in this way time and time again, for it is time yet again to up-level our ability to code and key into the networks that each of us has access to. And we all use these keys in different ways, and we are all being invited to play with language in a different way. For how can we see beyond the conformity that we have brought into our reality and maintained, and maintain a higher vantage point? And so now is the time for us to see from a higher vantage point and to take advantage of the different points that are encapsulated within our system. STEM is the brain. And we are systematically reorganizing from many different triangulations, realities, and past and future connection points through multidimensionality in and within this quantum link to diversified and expanded realities, pulling it through the human, that is me and you, the skin suit, in translation to what we are seeing, feeling, hearing, and accessing. Why is this important? Not only is it fun for me and expansive because it creates a sense of energy. We are able to sense into a different energy, aka vocabulary, aka transition in translation. This has to do with electrical stuff. I'm hearing electric pulse points. We are then able to put our finger on the pulse and isolate certain zones of impact. So now we're going in I'm going into a different layer through this, but I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more simplified. For when we tune in to these tones or isometrics, isometry, geometry, we are able to activate our frequency and change how we communicate with our body and our reality, aka our environment, and one another. We may not always do it in a poetic and sing-song way, but we will begin to utilize or map into frequency in a different way. We begin to understand and communicate with frequency through wordplay, through sound, through listening and sending out a signal that allows us to resonate with a higher signal. This is important because we are and have been and have sent out a signal and are signifying that we are ready for this, that we want more. And this increases our ability to expand, to grow, to change how we function. We function at a higher level, a higher sense, if you will. For this is an extra sensory, I'm hearing add-on in addition to, yeah. So as we sign off right now and we tune back into the regular or linear way of speaking, we are still harmonized at this higher frequency, for it sticks. I'm hearing glue on. It sticks, and we remember when we spark up this type of conversation with ourselves through synchronicity, through symbology, through feeling into the words that another is speaking, through mapping into our higher brain, if you will, and beginning to understand the complexities or the range that we have access to. And this excites the cellular network, not only the network and the cells that are held within the body, but it excites the humanity network. It excites and creates a ripple effect for those who are able to feel into, I'm hearing the pitter patter, and then I'm seeing raindrops, but I'm hearing like footsteps, footnotes, lots of plays on words. And we then create and co-create together in a higher language. We begin to speak more words that are written in heartfelt, I'm seeing like not only coherence, but connection, right? So we begin to connect with different streams of consciousness that are part of our domain, that are part of our heritage. And when I say heritage, I see 3 hairs. I literally see the hairs on our head standing up, the hairs on our arms, which are signals that signify us something else is going on, right? Goosebumps, our hairs go up, our antennae spread out, our synapses fire differently. We create different chemicals in our body. I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about this. We begin to remember extraordinary ways that we have to communicate. And again, pass the words, pass the language. We begin to form new information, and we begin to change how we share information, how we spread information, and this creates a fire in the template structure of the heart, or the heart creates the fire in the template structure. And I'm hearing, how great thou art. It becomes this deeper canvas that we are co-creating together. So, in love and light, namaste. Have fun playing, guys. Again, meant to be felt, to be continued. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, and sharing and liking these videos. Bye-bye.